It began like a nightmare. On July 27th, the skies over Ukraine shook as hundreds of tanks and thousands of North Korean troops surged across the border. What was supposed to be a meticulously planned invasion suddenly descended into chaos. The kamikaze drones at the forefront detonated prematurely, forming walls of fire across the horizon. The shock shattered formations and sowed confusion from the first second. Instead of clearing the path to victory, it turned the North Korean forces into living targets amidst the inferno. Can you imagine the soldiers' shock in that moment? Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next videos. But the nightmare wasn't over yet. The once feared T-90 tanks, symbols of power, were ripped apart by invisible mines. An armored vehicle was flung into the air, landing upside down in the burning field. No one inside survived. North Korea turned from predator to prey. Screams echoed through the smoke as reactive armor detonated, fuel tanks ignited, and even medics were shot trying to rescue the wounded. Within minutes, the battlefield had turned into a colossal slaughterhouse where steel, fire, and blood became one. Amid the chaos, a young North Korean soldier who had just escaped a burning vehicle was engulfed by a second blast of fire. From the tree line, Ukrainian troops unleashed their shots with chilling precision. No rally point, no air cover, no second chance. This wasn't a balanced battle, it was a meticulously crafted trap. Every step the North Koreans took dragged them deeper into the killing ground, where every inch of soil had already been marked for death. As they charged blindly into the inferno, beneath the smoke lay a chilling silence, the kind that only comes after hundreds of lives have been extinguished. A question echoed through the ashes. What caused North Korea's catastrophic failure? What was the trap? The answer emerged at 6:40 a.m., when satellite images revealed a bone-chilling sight over eastern Ukraine, a massive armored convoy moving westward, straight from the very Russian base they had once captured. But this time, those steel beasts didn't bear the Russian flag. They carried North Korean insignias. Pyongyang had officially entered the war. For Ukraine, this was no longer a simple confrontation, but a full-scale invasion from a regime halfway across the world. Leading the charge were 80 suicide drones, flying low and fast, each packed with enough explosives to tear through bunkers and melt reinforced steel. They swarmed forward like a cloud of metal locusts, clearing the path for the mechanized storm behind them. A day when every rule of modern warfare was set ablaze. Moments later, 60 T-90 tanks, 40 armored personnel carriers, and over 800 elite troops followed in formation, a steel tide sweeping across the plains with the precision of a parade, not a battle. It was the first time North Korea had ever deployed a fully unified mechanized force on foreign soil, and they hadn't come to negotiate. They came to declare war. Western analysts estimated the formation's value at over $370 million, a staggering figure for a nation under heavy sanctions. This wasn't just a show of force. It was a direct challenge to NATO and the balance of global power. North Korea believed Ukraine was weak, a nation on its knees, ready to crumble with a single strike. But what they didn't know was that beneath the calm soil, a steel nightmare was already waiting. That's when the story shifted to General Mykolaichenko and Ukraine's 93rd Mechanized Brigade, the men who turned 3 square miles of farmland into a perfect killing ground. For 17 consecutive nights, they worked in silence, laying 40 to 200 anti-tank mines in a crisscross pattern like a deadly web. It wasn't the number of mines that killed. It was the precision of the design, where each explosion was meant not just to destroy, but to shatter formations, sever command lines, and plunge invaders into chaos. mines weren't scattered at random. They were layered in killing tiers, interwoven with pressure, infrared, and seismic sensors, forming a deliberate web of death. Even the so-called safe paths were intentionally left open, decoys designed to lure enemy drivers into the trap. The plan was so intricate that NATO combat engineers personally approved the layout. Above ground, the Ukrainian fields lay quiet, serene, yet beneath them, the earth had become a primed weapon.
What's...
And then, at 7:03 a.m., the first North Korean tank crossed the invisible line and turned into a rain of steel. In just 4 minutes, 17 tanks were destroyed without Ukraine firing a single shot. In the command vehicle, the UAV crew monitored via thermal cameras, marking each explosion in real time. Drones hovered, relaying data every 12 seconds. Disaster nearly struck Ukraine when a resupply truck carrying drone batteries veered off course, rolling to within a few meters of the minefield. Had it collided and detonated, the entire plan would have unraveled. Shouts crackled over the radio. The driver slammed the brakes, dust exploded into the air. And that heartbeat decided the fate of an entire formation. Fortunately, the disaster was averted, a stark reminder that in modern warfare, even perfect plans walk a razor's edge.
Цій тактиці українців.
Ukraine held the line. North Korea, thinking it had entered empty fields, instead lost armor, fuel, and men to ground engineered to consume invaders. And this was only an overture. The next act will teach the North Koreans what true hell really looks like. And then, 12 minutes after the first mine, Ukraine launched its second strike. This time, the ground did not explode. It roared. From 3 concealed directions, the southern tree line, the western hillside, and an abandoned village, 32 T-84 Oplot tanks surged forward, engines screaming, ceramic armor glinting in the morning sun. Fire support came from 10 GPS-guided 2S-22 Bodana self-propelled guns and pre-positioned mobile air defense units. This was no longer passive defense. It was a 3-pronged counterattack, planned to strike with precision, synchronization, and finality. Before North Korea could even comprehend what happened, their formation collapsed. Turrets spun wildly, soldiers jumped from burning vehicles, and radio channels dissolved into chaos. But it was already too late. Ukraine's pincer strike had been triggered the instant the first mine detonated. Within 90 seconds, 9 more North Korean tanks were annihilated. A single Oplot round pierced 2 armored carriers in line, igniting the second one as it rolled forward. North Korea was sinking deeper, second by second, into the trap they never even realized they had entered. But the threat wasn't over yet. Above, 33 surviving North Korean kamikaze drones dove down like a swarm of mad hornets, screaming through the smoke and fire. They aimed to deliver one last strike against the Ukrainian armor. However, Ukraine was ready. Mounted on each armored flank were 6-barreled Shkval rotary cannons, unleashing over 4,000 rounds per minute. With infrared sensors and gyroscopic stabilizers locking in, the sky turned into a massive steel blender, shredding the drones before they could ever reach their targets. In just 4 minutes, 47 out of 53 drones were torn apart mid-air. Some detonated less than 9 meters from the turrets, but reactive armor redirected the blasts upward, neutralizing the impact. The remaining 6 either lost signal or were deceived by Ukraine's electronic warfare, veering off toward empty hillsides and abandoned barns. The sky, once filled with a deadly screech, fell into a chilling silence, the kind that comes just before the storm, as Ukrainian artillery prepared to fire. From a ridge 600 meters away, Ukrainian self-propelled guns opened fire on the retreating North Korean forces. Shells detonated 3 meters above the ground, unleashing a rain of steel that shredded everything below. One round hit a fuel line, creating a fireball that engulfed 3 medical vehicles in an instant. Inside his command tank, Vadim Wolf K watched through the turret camera and said coldly, "They're not retreating, they're disappearing." At that moment, the battlefield flipped completely. The hunters had become the hunted. As North Korean troops fell back behind the collapsed warehouse, the sky lit up. Volleys of RPG-29s with tandem warheads capable of piercing 600mm of reactive armor streaked through the air. One rocket hit an ammo truck, triggering a 3-story fireball whose shockwave cracked windows half a mile away. From the ridge above, a Ukrainian sniper using a 12 AVX thermal scope picked off North Korean officers one by one, aiming for the IR markers on their helmets. Each shot shattered command cohesion, and fear spread faster than fire through the surviving ranks. And then, amid the chaos and smoke, something no one expected happened. Inside a collapsed North Korean command vehicle, still smoldering beneath a pine tree, Ukrainian medics found a wounded officer, his uniform torn, face covered in blood, yet his boots perfectly clean. On his shoulder was a Russian-made GPS command unit still transmitting. A quick biometric scan delivered a stunning result. Colonel Kim In-ho, commander of the 42nd Armored Regiment. He had disguised himself as an ordinary soldier. Beneath his bulletproof vest, he had hidden a satin-lined officer's cap, something no regular soldier would ever wear. Within minutes, he was bandaged, handcuffed, and escorted onto a helicopter, the rotors cutting through the smoke-filled air. On him, investigators found an encrypted SSD drive containing the next 72 hours of combat orders and retreat routes for 4 North Korean regiments along the Azov front. Later, Ukrainian analysts would call it the most valuable intelligence prize since the war began. But at that moment, the greatest value wasn't in the data, it was that he was the last man still standing amid the wreckage. By 8:05 a.m., just 85 minutes after the first North Korean tank crossed the line, the entire invasion collapsed. The numbers were staggering. "42 armored vehicles destroyed, 14 abandoned, over 230 North Korean soldiers killed or captured, and, most shocking of all, a regimental commander taken alive on the battlefield."